Alright fellas, here we are back on Pokemon Masters, and so tomorrow we're going to be the release of the Legendary Gauntlet alongside the triple feature PokeFair Scout for that Legendary Gauntlet, which features Champion Iris, Signusuit Diantha, and Emma. Whoop-dee. So, this banner, of course, they've been making these Legendary Gauntlet banners a lot more valuable recently. Like, they've, instead of, including moderate to old fairs, they've been including a lot more recent ones. Granted, these aren't that recent. Diantha's a year and a half old. I guess Emma's the newest one, right? Literally a year and a half old. And then Iris is obviously fucking, what, 2.5 years old at this point? That's crazy. Anyway, whatever, it doesn't matter that much. All of these sync pairs are good in their own right, respective right. They all get good abilities. I'm not going to really talk too much about the value of the Scout. I would say that the most valuable character is definitely Diantha, and if you are a rock type enthusiast, or you want to buff your rock types, Diantha is an amazing sync pair to do so, though I think she does require quite a bit of investment to be effective at that job, or at least run alongside maybe alt Elio. Emma's really good as well, a very good poison striker, though I think that a lot of her niche in that department, quote-unquote niche, because she's still good, right, has diminished just because of the existence of so many more poison options since her release, right? Like we've got Gita, Ariana, Oleana, Clara recently, Signusuit Roxy, ton of poison options. Like here's Emma right here, and then there's all of these. In just the past year and a half, we've gotten all of these poison options, which is pretty crazy to think about. And then Iris is a very, very good dragon nuker, good nuker for dragon, rather, but has been mostly outclassed as a dragon in general, just because of how difficult some of her multipliers are to activate, the fact she doesn't really do too much in terms of damage, I guess, otherwise, and just generally a few other things. But we'll go over these sync pairs individually. So first of all, I want to go over Diantha because she's probably the one that is the most appealing character to go for in this banner. I don't know how many reruns she has had. I think one dedicated rerun alongside Annabelle, maybe. Maybe it's 2 reruns. I'm not 100% sure. Either way, whatever. She's a good sync pair still, for sure. Her biggest focus. Before I go directly into this, I'm not going to go analyze each of these characters' individual abilities too much because there are 3 of them. I don't want this video to be that long, but I do want to give you a good overview of what these characters can do. At 1 out of 5, without too much investment, Diantha has pretty good offensive stats. If we just go down to level 140, pretty good offensive stats, decent enough defensive stats, HP stats fine, speed's fine, whatever. Mega Evolving does give her more attack and defense, making her more physically bulky and obviously good offenses. And then she's recently gained the Field EX role. Well, I guess gained the Field EX role with this banner's debut, right? Which does give her even more defensive ability, good speed stat, HP, all her stats with full investment are good, which, I mean, that's to be expected for the most part. Nearly 500 attack, right? Over 800 health, over 230 in both defenses. Defenses nearly at 300, right? That's pretty damn good, all things considered. Her move options, the big thing with her is that her DPS option is Rock Tomb, which sucks. And then she's got her Pink Diamond Storm, which does require a Rock Zone to be activated, which is her biggest niche, is setting Rock Zone, which she did get the Field EX roll, which helps her out a lot. And then it's a good damaging option, hits all enemies, 160 power, lowers enemy defenses, and raises ally defenses. This is a good buddy move, right? Biggest problem with her is that Rock is a type that is kind of littered with, I guess you could say littered with buddy moves or long animation moves. Like you've got Diantha with her Diamond Storm, you've got Champion Silver, the buddy move. Apollo Stone Edges aren't that long. Now recently you've gotten the Nihil Meteor Beam with Celine, right? Rock Slide's a decently long animated move, I guess. The big point is that Rock Zone with Diantha does not last nearly as long as you would expect it to or want it to, simply because of how long these moves take to actually activate. And that was a big issue with her. But with the Field EX roll, that just fixes that issue pretty much entirely. Pretty much entirely, which is great. She does a little bit of sync countdown with her trainer move alongside a few other perks such as buffing physical moves next, applying gradual healing, and also raising special defense, which mostly the gradual healing and special defense buffs, those are good for the gauntlet, if not just in general, frankly, right? Good for just maintaining healing in any longer battle or maintaining defensive ability, and sync countdown can be helpful combined alongside the likes of Silver and Paulo for, sync ramping. She's got Honing Hit 9 as well, which buffs her attack and crit when using a move, so she's got extremely good self-sufficiency. It just takes 3 turns to max out her stats, and it doesn't really matter what she does, which is good. She relies pretty much on speed debuffs for a lot of her multiplier activation. 1 out of 5, she doesn't really have too much, and frankly, I'm not really sure how, if I would recommend just keeping her at 1 out of 5, simply because she's got no nuke. She does set the field, have the field DX roll right, but she still does not have any real, nuking stuff for her damage, right? That's one of the biggest issues. She's just got this 100% multiplier off a 240 base power sync move, which is fine, but still, that is a pretty big issue. I think that is kind of deserving of being mentioned. When Mega Evolving, she's still got Tripwire too, so more speed debuff. She's got Team Unbending, which is nice. Defense debuff immunity for the whole team. Not too shabby. But she's got decent DPS, the ability to set Rock Zone, but of course her nuke is low, which is probably one of the biggest issues because, again, you do want to set Rock Zone with the field DX roll, so having a low-powered nuke does hinder that quite a bit. So that's where I think that investing her fully in 3 out of 5 is probably a good idea. You get Cakewalk, you get the Sync nodes, you get Scholar Sync Special Defense, alongside a few other things, such as Rock Zone and PR. So if you do need even more Rock Zone, 2 uses of Rock Wish plus the Field DX roll. If you need even more in a longer battle setting, Rock Wish is going to be helpful for that. Rock Wish and PR, rather. Tough Cookie for helping out with DPS, because again, Pink Diamond Storm is a pretty good damaging option for just DPS purposes, so being able to max that out in terms of damage efficiency is not a bad idea, but that's mostly just going to be dependent upon you. She's got easier speed debuffing to activate Cakewalk and other speed debuff related stuff if you want to use that, and a few other utility based things such as status immunity under Rock Zone, which is not too shabby, Lithic Acceleration for some gauge acceleration under Rock Zone, Catalytic Kick on the Trend move for more gauge acceleration stuff, Sync Damage Guard for damage guard on the Sync, of course, and some other things like, again, Soothing Sand, Sand Fortress, whatever, these sand-based abilities that are probably going to be decent enough, again, when partnered up with characters like Palo and Cygnus Silver, who are her best, most abused partners, I guess. The big trio to clear Darok's ultimate battle is Diantha, Palo, Silver, just because you don't need a support on that team. The damage is just too crazy. And that was even before Diantha got the EX roll, so it's even better now, of course. So 3 out of 5 investment is definitely not a bad idea. You get a nuke with it, which does incentivize the use of the field DX roll a lot more. You do get, of course, Roxanne and PR, and even more, again, utility stuff like Lithic Healing, Roxanne Status Immunity, Soothing Sand, Sand Fortress, Catalytic Kick, and just other stuff that is good for her gauge management, healing, and defensive ability, which are all, of course, going to be good in pretty much any game mode, but mostly speaking, the Legendary Gauntlet is probably the best place to think about that type of stuff. And also getting all of her multiplier-based stuff active, whatever I just said, all of her multipliers activated, extremely easy, right? You got the Sync nodes, Cakewalk, Scholar Sync, Tough Cookie, right there. All good. And if you want to, of course, you can just forego picking up Tough Cookie if you want to pick up Rock Zone MPR, and then you've still got, 400 to work with. You could probably pick up, frankly, I don't know. No clue, man. Figure it out. Alright, there you go. Yeah, you can pick that up. Plus 6 energy, you can pick up all the stuff you need. Roxanne NPR, Tough Cookie, Sync nodes, all that stuff. Very, very nice. 4 out of 5, 5 out of 5. 4 out of 5 we wouldn't say is really worth mentioning, but 5 out of 5 she gets Soften Up 1 and Roxanne Extension. Roxanne Extension is probably the most important tile. This makes you pretty much... for a few battles, you're probably still going to need Rock Zone NPR, even all things considered, but this does, for the most part, make it so you aren't really going to be relying upon Rock Wish NPR, so you can be more consistent in using her damaging option move, so you have to, swap less between using Rock Zone and using your damaging move, right? It just makes it more consistent to where you can pick that. So, being able to pick up Rock Zone Extension is nice. That does make her 5 out of 5 overall look relatively valuable to pick up. Even with the field DX roll, right, because you do get that field extended Rock Zone with the Sync move on top of now having Extension 3. So Diantha does, of course, have a lot more Rock Zone available to her, and this pretty much just fixed all the issues she had before. Like, this was her biggest problem, was that maintaining Rock Zone was just a pain. Even under Extension, it did not last long enough. You would continually have to pick up NPRs and alternate between using Rock Wish for the most part and using her Diamond Storm every so often. This just completely eliminates that need. And of course, the introduction of Alt Elio helps that even further. So even if you don't have full investment for her, if you don't have the EX roll or whatever, if you're like 3 out of 5 or something, being able to, if you have Elio, his usage of 4 out of 5 of being able to extend Rock Zone himself and also set it twice himself on the buddy move is just as effective there. So Rock Zone gaining more partners to be able to go alongside Diantha, alongside her gaining her own buffs to be able to supply it better, is overall just making her value boost a little bit further, at least in my opinion. Overall, definitely not a bad sync pair for empowering rock characters. Good damage dealing / nuking character for a rock type, and just as a whole, not too shabby. So that's nice. Next, moving on to Emma. Wherever Emma is. Emma already had her EX role of support. I remember going over that however long ago that was. She's got some pretty good stuff to her as well. She's mostly a poison damage dealing oriented sync pair. With full investment, or near full investment, she's got 464 attack, 214 in both defenses, 790 health, and 443 speed. Overall, not too shabby stats for a striker character. She is a strike support, of course. The big reason she did get support is because she does a lot of supportive abilities, mostly just the potion and the speed buffs to the whole team with her turn move. This does make her turn move very, very nice, for sure. Be able to buff attack and be able to buff attack by 4 for herself and speed of all allies by 4 is very, very nice. I would say that, combining her gauge management abilities plus potions makes her very, very solid for duos in the Legendary Gauntlet, if I were to think about it. But also that might also depend on if the enemies can be poisoned. Not too sure. But anyway, being a striker with potions and a little bit of supportive ability is always a good thing. Even just, no matter what you're playing. Being able to manage gauge, very nice. And her big thing is being able to use Poison Fang to poison an enemy, which is then going to activate her Buddy move, which is a 230 base power move, 400 gauge, no, 4 gauge move that never misses, and it's got guaranteed crits. Very, very solid as well. So this is where she, doesn't buff crit and whatnot. She's got guaranteed crits with this move. That is the design of her kit. You will poison the enemy with Poison Fang, and then you will utilize that poison enemy to be able to fire off cross poisons here, which are going to be doing very solid damage. That's pretty much the design. Other than that, she's got Head Start 2 for some sync countdown, Toxic Freebie 4 for some gauge management ability. Again, good for the gauntlet, but also good pretty much elsewhere because, again, 4 gauge move user, and also critical sync here with guaranteed crits on the sync move, so you don't have to worry about buffing crit for that, or, relying on soften up 1 for guaranteed crits and whatnot. Just, it's all in one passive, so that's nice. 1 out of 5, I don't think that matters too much because she has no multipliers. At 1 out of 5, she's just got, the 2 uses of potion, the 4 speed on all allies, as well as a 230 base power, DPS option. That's not bad, but, that's pretty much akin to, like, Lance. That quite literally is Lance, but without the self-sufficiency, which I guess is a pretty big hindrance, right? But still, that's, just food for thought. It's like running a 1 out of 5 Lance. Kinda. That's where, of course, investment does help her out quite a bit. Where at 3 out of 5, she gains Toxic Power 3, Virtual Toxin 2, Toxic Power 1, Ramming Speed, Inertia, and a few other abilities, frankly. But these are the big damaging ones, where you've got yourself, what is this? Toxic Power 3, Toxic Power 1, Ramming Speed, that's 70% in total DPS multipliers, as well as 120% in total nuking multipliers. So that's pretty solid. I mean, 120% nuking multipliers is not fantastic. It's decent enough, but the DPS definitely benefits a ton. 253 power move with up to 70% total multipliers, not even considering running, Crit Strike 2 or whatever. That's definitely really good, for sure. Like, her DPS is going to be looking quite solid, and even outside of that, outside of all of the nuking and DPS related stuff, she's still got her utility based stuff such as Toxic Hit Speed Up, which buffs her speed every time she hits a poisoned enemy. Again, just increasing her self-sufficiency and gauge purposes. Trying to move NPR alongside trying to move Slippery 1, potential evasion cheese, again, gauntlet stuff, and frankly, resetting for a 30% NPR on a 1-use trainer move. I'm sorry, sorry, soldier. Good luck, but you're only probably going to be going for +2 anyway, because otherwise the move will fail. Anyway, she's also got Poison Acceleration, just gauge ability, Toxic Chance for extra poison chance if you do need it, Master Healer, Potion NPR, these two, again, 2 nodes that are good for the Legendary Gauntlet, and also just, again, even outside the Legendary Gauntlet, you can use potions pretty much anywhere, so being able to have that is nice, at least as an option. Granted, your DPS should not really be focusing on healing, again, outside of Legendary Gauntlet, but if you do need to, it is there. Again, this just helps out with her sustainability purposes. Again, as said ad nauseum, most of the Legendary Gauntlet. And outside of that, she's also got Adrenaline 1 for a little bit more sync countdown, on top of, again, having Head Start 2 here for sync countdown and entry. You can run Head Start 1 as a lucky skill for a combined -3 sync countdown, skip an entire sync rotation, and that's pretty effective. Or, of course, you could combine it with a character like Oleana, who does -1 sync countdown on her trainer move, or any other character that does a similar effect. Plumeria being a sprint is able to lower sync countdown pretty effectively. Probably a few other characters that do it that, again, running Head Start 1 on pretty much anything, like your support or whatever, could do that. That's not a bad idea either. Anyway, so Emma's got a pretty good 3 out of 5, right? And of course, the biggest things is, of course, the damage, right? Because she's the damage dealer, you want to focus on damage, and she does, again, have good options. 70% multipliers on a 250 base power move is no joke, especially when her offensive stat is up to 486 attack, right? That's really, really good. Like, there's no doubt about that. But of course, she still does have other abilities like these potion NPRs, gauge management with her speed buffing, and even, without worrying about her grid, she's still got good gauge management with her toxic free before and her ability to buff speed on the trainer move. So she still does have that stuff as well. Good self-sufficiency and good gauge management based stuff as well. So I do think she is pretty respectable in that regard. And up to 5 out of 5 investment, she gets Ruthless Toxin 9, Team Evasive Maneuvers, and I guess like Catalytic Kick and Venomous Sink, although I don't really see too much value in those nodes individually. I guess maybe Catalytic Kick on the trainer move could be pretty good. Like, you don't have to worry about these other gauge-based abilities. You can just pick this up, and that will help quite a lot. But mostly the Ruthless Toxin as well as the Team Evasive Maneuvers are going to be good. 50% chance to buff Evasion when the attack move is successful. Evasion Cheese, always going to be good. You can ignore the Slippery on the trainer move because of this. Evasion Cheese in the Gauntlet's great. And then Ruthless Toxin for random debuffs, again, in the Gauntlet. That is going to be really good as well. So if you are, granted, this is the Gauntlet banner, so I guess that makes sense, but a full invested Emma is probably going to be providing quite a bit of value, I would say, at least for just getting one clear. Again, debuffs, the debuffs, evasion buffs, the gauge management, efficiency, the potions, all of it, despite the fact that she is a striker, pretty much just points to her being able to have better efficiency, I guess, at that role of being in the Legendary Gauntlet, I guess. I wouldn't say these are that valuable outside of it. Like, a lot of Ultimate Battles have Piercing Gaze, so the evasion buffs aren't that fantastic. The debuffs can be better dedicated to another character, such as Signet Suit Roxy, Ariana, or Oleana. Gita as well can debuff defense and whatnot. Like, again, I think the debuffing ability is better utilized by other characters you're going to be running alongside Emma in that, higher, more focused team building content, where you're going to be trying to really build around one solid central team. Again, like maybe Emma and Oleana, and then, whatever support, right? Or Emma and Gita, where I think the debuffs are a little bit less valuable to pick up. So if you're just going to be using Emma for damage, of course, I think 3 out of 5 is good enough, right? She gets all of her multipliers there anyway, but if you're going to be using her for more utility purposes, Ruthless Toxin 9, Team Evasive Maneuvers, those are probably going to be looking pretty valuable for nodes, just for like the Legendary Gauntlet and whatnot, so could be looking at those. Anyway, final character is Champion Iris and Hydreigon. I love the sync pair, but she got shafted. So Iris is a pretty old character, back from 2021, back during the half anniversary, the 1.5 anniversary, whatever, doesn't really matter that much, but this is her first time getting the EX roll, and she got Sprint. I'm going to guess she got Sprint because, for one, she does -1 sync countdown on her trainer move, but she also is getting her EX roll alongside Signet Suit Diantha, who got Field. And Iris and Diantha tend to have a little bit of a dynamic, so I guess they tried to make a little duo out of that. It was not funny. Iris should have got Strike, and you'll see why in a second if you don't know what her kit is, but I'm sure you can kind of figure it out or go look for yourself. Sprint is not like god-awful, but Strike would have been so much better. Field would have, frankly, been better. But if there was support would have been better. Sprint's just the worst EX roll, man. This is annoying. -3 sync countdown on the sync move is nice and all, and she gets +20 in the offense, but just frankly, the other buff she could have gotten would have been better. She doesn't really break 500 attack, but that's still not bad, right? 496 attack is still really good. 246 in both defenses, 855 health, 377 speed. These are not bad stats pretty much at all, right? Like, that's definitely not a problem. Her big thing is that she's got Breaking Swipe and Snarl, which are AoE debuffing moves, debuffing attack and special attack. One of her passives is Double Drop, so whenever she debuffs a stat, it is lowered by double the stat ranks. This makes Breaking Swipe and Snarl debuff attack and special attack by 2 stat ranks instead of 1. And if you do opt to run her with Mind Games, whatever, 2, I think, Mind Games 2 or Defense Crush 2 as a lucky skill, that will also do double debuffs, assuming those passives proc, right? So even faster debuffing if you want to run that, which Defense Crush 2 Iris is a legitimate strategy, or at least it used to be. I don't know if it still is. I don't really keep up with these older characters that much. But point is, her debuffing is good, frankly, and that is why Strike would be preferred, because she's got AoE debuffing, AoE multiplier activation. Easily could have just given her Strike and made her good at that, because damage is something she kind of lacks, so being able to improve on that would have been nice, but they didn't do it. Scare. Whatever. She got Dragon Rush for her main DPS option, 3 gauge move, 156 power, not bad, just they never expanded upon it, which is sad. Again, because she's focused on debuffing as well, so it's a lot later in the battle that you even start using Dragon Rush. We'll get into that. She's got her Training with 3 Heads, which applies Gauge Acceleration, reduces Sync Countdown by 1, and raises her attack by 2 and crit by 1. Not really a great training move by today's standards, but I mean, it's got some, you know, Gauge is nice, the Sync Countdown can be nice, the buffs can be nice, but it's mostly just like, this can be nice. It's not really vital though, because you're still going to have to bring a support to max out her offense and crit anyway, so yeah. She's got Power Loving, which is powered up the more that enemy stats are lowered. I don't know the exact multiplier activation of this. I just know that it is effectively infinite. I don't think it relies on a specific amount of debuffs to be fully activated. Well, okay, yeah, it does. It requires, like, what, 50, however many debuffs there can be in the game at once, you know, -6 to all 5 stats plus accuracy and evasion. So there is that, I guess, to consider for Power Loving. But for the most part, it's just going to be scaling alongside however many debuffs the enemy has. And then Piercing Gaze moves never miss. So Power Loving is not a bad multiplier for Dragon Rush. Don't really think it's enough, because again, you are using it a lot later in the battle, because you are going to be mostly focused on debuffing enemy stats with Breaking Swipe and Snarl, maybe using the trainer move, and then, you know, you can finally start using Dragon Rush, which it'll be fine in damage. It's not going to be fantastic, but it'll be fine, serviceable. And then her innate multiplier is Power Play, which has the more enemy stats are lower, the greater the power of this attack. With 18 debuffs, Power Play is maxed at 120% of a total multiplier, which is not bad for sure. Definitely not a bad multiplier. And that's just a 1 out of 5 Iris. 1 out of 5, she's not that great, right? I mean, the debuffs are nice, the nuke is decent, okay, somewhat fine-ish, right? You know, 120% multipliers is not crazy, but, you know, it's not horrible either. Dragon Rush is a fine enough DPS option, but of course she mostly lacks things. So, of course, investing to, you know, 3 out of 5 would help out quite a bit, because she gets Devastation and Pecking Order. 200% multipliers combined with her 120% any multiplier, giving her 320% in total nuking multipliers. Not much else needs to be said. That is good, no doubt, right? Makes her one of the best dragon nukers in the game. She might still be the best dragon nuker in the game. I don't know. It's been a fat minute since I've actually looked at the charts, and I don't feel like looking at them again. So I'm just gonna continue to say that she is one of the best dragon nukers in the game, if not the best. And of course, the plus 20 to offenses with Sprinty X roll helps out that a tiny bit more. So that's something, I guess. But yeah, either way, this is the biggest thing that she gains from investment in dupes, is the extra damage on her nuke, just to be able to effectively clear stages, because she just obliterates them. And this is why the Striker EX roll again would have been better than Sprint, because she would have been able to do the AoE debuffs like normal, but then also capitalize on that because she would be able to hit all enemies. Especially because she gets softened up at 5 out of 5, so you would, you know, have a reason to actually do that. Or pick that up, rather. Yeah. She's also got training with NPR if you want to be able to buff attack and crit a little bit faster, but just probably don't. I mean, I guess I can see a little bit more usage in this in like the Gauntlet, where you may find better usage in that Gauge Acceleration and maybe the Sync Countdown as well. Or again, you really need that self-sufficiency, so you want to go for NPR for that reason. But outside of that, just I don't think the value in this is that great. Training move all ramped up is also really useless in my opinion. I mean, it can buff ally special attack, but really I don't find a whole lot of use in that. It's very niche. Beef up 3 for better attack buffing, I guess, when hit by an attacking move though. Why is she the tank? No, this is a fodder node basically. Again, outside of the Gauntlet. Which even in the Gauntlet, you're going to be getting hit by an AoE attack anyway, because I still highly doubt you're going to be making Iris the tank unless you're soloing. which case I don't even know what she solos. I can't think of it right now. But point is, bad node, okay but niche node, fodder node. This whole side, just don't even look at it. Dragon Rush Trip Up 6, I guess that's decent for activating speed debuff based multipliers, and also being able to power up power leveling a little bit more. Sure, and again, also innate, what do you call it, power play. Sure, I guess, but also this requires using Dragon Rush, not Breaking Swipe or Snarl. If this was Trip Up 6 naturally, that wouldn't be too shabby, I guess, but you're forced to use Dragon Rush, which is pretty iffy, because again, you're Breaking Swipe, Snarl, Dragon Rush, that's a lot of moves to have to use in a limited amount of time. So, yeah. And I think I pretty much just made it clear that really the only thing she gains at 3 out of 5 is Devastation and Pecking Order. Again, Trainer Move is kind of niche. Trainer Move NPR is kind of niche, but it does have its little bits of value, I guess. But again, mostly niche. 5 out of 5, 4 out of 5, and 5 out of 5 investment. She does gain Dragon Rush Aggravation 2, as well as Trainer Move Honing Hit. I'm not even going to bother even telling you about this node. She debuffs all enemy stats by 1 on entry with this node, but it's still just not worth it. Double drop when an opponent's stat is lower. Okay, so it's -2, I think. So -2 to all enemy stats, I guess, on entry. That's a little bit better, but I don't think this is all that great of a node. I mean, you're already able to debuff the offenses with her buddy move here. Speed and evasiveness doesn't really matter. Accuracy can be pretty clutch, I guess. Speed doesn't really matter either. The defenses, I guess, are nice, but again, you can run like Defense Crush or Mind Games as a lucky skill to kind of mitigate that if you want to. Overall, I just don't think it's worth the investment, especially because enemies can buff their stats back generally, so you're not really able to focus on keeping up those debuffs. And then she also gains, Soften Up 1 as well for easier crits. This would have been better if she had the Strike X scroll, but alas, she does not. She got Dragon Rush Aggravation 2 here. 60% chance to flinch. I mean, I don't really have to say much about how good flinch chances are, but you also got to consider with Iris, she's already trying to use Breaking Swipe and Snarl for her debuffing, so keep that in mind when trying to make use of Dragon Rush, that you are going to be foregoing debuffing for this, or of course it's, later in the battle, I guess. Then Trainer Move Honing Hit for more +1 crit and +2 attack as well. This should have just been regular Honing Hit, frankly, but sure, if you want to get the +4 attack and +2 crit, you can do that. And if you want to go for Trainer Move NPR to max out those stats, it just makes it easier. That's really all it is. It just makes it easier to be able to actually be self-sufficient with Iris, which is nice, I guess, but they still made it pretty roundabout because you still kind of want to go for the Trainer Move NPR. Sure, so whatever. I know I spent a little bit too much time railing on Iris's abilities here, but she is still a really good Dragon Nuker, and she still is a really good debuffer as well. AoE debuffs, for attack, special attack, the random debuffs on entry, the potential debuffs from Defense Crusher, Mind Games, the lucky skills, and of course them being double debuffs as well is all really good. Just, again, kind of wonky, quirky kit, I guess. Granted, all these characters are pretty wonky in their kit designs, because Diantha's still got the flaw of Rock Zone, which again has mostly been mitigated now, but it existed. Emma's got the reliance on poison and being a striker that really has a lot of support for rolls, I guess. And then Iris with the the biggest shaft of getting the Sprint DX roll over strike. Man, that hurts. But whatever. Anyway, I'm not going to really say too much about the value of this banner. I mean, Diantha's good, Emma's good, Iris in her own right is good as well, and especially with full investment, these characters can all apply something to a team. Again, Iris is a great nuker, Diantha's a great Rock Zone setter and damage dealer with a solid nuke as well, Emma's a great damage dealer for poison, and a lot of utility-based stuff for the Legendary Gauntlet. What else is there to really say? A lot of characters these days can kind of do those similar things. So each banner is really just dependent upon what you need, what you want. If you need a good poison damage dealer, you need a good Rock Zone setter, you need a good Dragon Nuker, all these characters can suffice if you, of course, are willing to invest in them fully. I don't think any of these characters are extremely great at 1 out of 5. I guess Iris maintains her amazing debuffs at 1 out of 5, but, that can only carry you so far, I would say. And Emma still got decent DPS at 1 out of 5. But still, for the most part, these characters do want investment, of course, to be, really, really good, but that tends to also be most characters in general anyway, so not really too much of a point there. I'm not going to say, summer skip, but, Anniversary's coming up, there's a ton of other banners that are coming up as well, and there's a ton of banners already out that are going to be providing a ton of value, so be careful if you are going to summon on this. Just, watch your gem count, be careful, and yeah, that's my thoughts. I'll see y'all later. Hope y'all enjoyed. Good luck on your Legendary Gauntlet battles if you're going to be doing any. Good luck on your summons for the Legendary Gauntlet banner if you're going to be summoning. Good luck on skipping, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.